Hi everyone. Today I'm with a dear friend who I found very inspiring because she always has a lovely smile on her face. Not only is she always smiling, she has great positivity and great curiosity about life. Despite having gone through quite the challenge of losing her sight and the challenge of losing a spouse. Patricia, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Okay, Nadia. Hello to everybody. My name is Patricia. I live in Madrid. I was born in Barcelona, towards the east of Spain, but I have lived here in Madrid for over 20 years now. I am a teacher. I used to teach at state school here in Madrid for adult further education. But then when I lost my sight completely a few years ago, that was a tremendous challenge, of course, professionally. I had to rethink my career, and now I do some private tutoring at home. Yes, and well, about my age, I'm not saying anything. I leave it over to the audience to guess.
We have an expression in English, never ask a lady her age.
Exactly, that's a good idea.
So it's wonderful to see you smiling and laughing as you always are. But I know that you went through challenging times. And if you don't mind, would you like to share with us the first challenging experience that you had?
Well, perhaps one of the first challenges was, well, right at the beginning, because I was born visually impaired. The illness that I was born with is called congenital glaucoma, which grossly defined means that the channel in your eyes through which the eye liquids flow, this channel is blocked. So then the liquids, they all accumulate in one side of your eye and make pressure against the optic nerve. And of course, with the years, this constant pressure damages your optic nerve until it's gone. I was born with this problem, and not only me, my elder sister, she had been born some years before me, totally blind. So having a blind sister and me myself being visually impaired was not easy. For example, I didn't go to a school. I just studied at home. I did what in the United States is quite common, I think, homeschooling, having some tutors, no? And then doing the exams in the official institutions. But I did go to university, and then I had to sit quite close to the blackboard. But even that way, I found it difficult to read what the teachers wrote down on the blackboard. So I always asked them to read it aloud or to give a short summary of what they were writing on the blackboard. But well, I managed to do my master's degree, and then I did the so-called public exams to become a civil servant in the state education system here in Spain, and I got this post as a teacher. And as I said before, then I was teaching for over 25 years, but then now I have had to change my activity slightly according to the circumstances.
I understand. So the childhood was difficult because of the impairment of the vision. But later on, I'm actually not sure, Patricia, what happened first. Did you lose your spouse or sight first?
No, first I lost my sight because with the years, as I said, my optic nerve got weaker and weaker. And unfortunately, all the surgery they did to me was more a problem than an advantage because it sped the process of losing my eyesight. There were some hemorrhages, and that's very bad for the eye. So I'm not saying that if I hadn't been operated upon, I would still keep my sight. Probably I would have lost it all the same, but more gradually. And perhaps the toughest is not only losing your sight, but losing it completely, because if you can manage to see some outlines, some colors, that's quite reassuring. But in my case, I only notice if it is sunshine or cloudy, if I look out of the balcony and notice it on my face. Yeah. Yes, I lost my sight about 5 years ago completely. And then when I was recovering from it slightly, because, well, these are things that you can never really recover from, that's when 2 years later I lost my spouse, Roger. He was British. He was a teacher too. He was fully sighted. And the worst of it all is that he was quite, he had not been ill before, because there are people who have a long illness before their actual death. And that's a kind of mental preparation for the family. He was okay. It all happened very suddenly. And again, basically due to a lot of medical neglects, because, when he first went to hospital on a Sunday, they just did some tests on his pancreas. The pancreas was okay, and they sent him back home. And instead of that, they should have carried on testing, because what happened is that the following day, he felt sick again, went back to hospital, and then they have actually found out that it was an inner hemorrhage, and it was his spleen. They should have removed his spleen right away, but they didn't. So it was all a series of mistakes, or I don't know, probably they thought they were doing the right thing, but in 3 days he was gone. So I have quite, it was, if you ask me which of the two has been worse for you, even though losing my sight is difficult, having lost him on top of that in these circumstances is even worse.
No, I can understand. It must have been a great shock to have, a loving husband by your side, and just 3 days starting, he feels ill, and you're saying within 3 days you lost him.
Exactly.
I can't imagine what was that like. Would you like to share what it felt like?
Well, terrible, really. I cannot find words for that. And it's still bad at present. I miss him very much. And as I say, if you ask me, what would you like to get back, your eyesight or your husband, I would immediately go for my husband rather than for my eyesight, even though I remember with much happiness the days when I could see. And it's true that it is a vicious circle, because of course it's harder, I think, to get over a bereavement if you cannot see, because if you can see, you can go out more easily, you can get more distractions more easily. But all the same, my priorities are clear. I would like him back rather than my vision.
Well, listening to that, I kind of feel, what can I say? It's so sad that you lost a loving, caring husband and you must have been very happy together. So, Patricia,
Yes,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you, so how did you manage to be so positive, always have a smile, continue to be interested and curious and want to learn, after having gone through such a sudden loss and such a large one?
Yes. Well, I don't know. I think luckily I am by nature quite strong, even though I wouldn't like to go through any more ordeals, really. Eh, um, I think naturally I am also quite curious, which has been my salvation throughout life, curious about people, about cultures, about life in general. And the fact that I was visually impaired for so many years, in a way, what was a slight training for the other senses. I think I valued more listening to things and touching things and smelling things than if I had been fully sighted. And I think through the other senses, you can get more out of life. And I am not saying that vision is not important. Among blind people, there is all quite frequently the debate: would we like to get our sight back if we could, or are we happy in our world with the other senses and all that? There is a lot of controversy about that. Personally, of course, I would like to get it back because I was always happy looking at people's faces, people's clothes. I was always curious. You see, again, another example of my curiosity about things. No? But I think the other senses give you another dimension of life and of the world. And at the moment, luckily, it's keeping me quite afloat. So my genuine curiosity in things, and probably if people can develop this curiosity, they might find it quite helpful to overcome difficult moments, tough moments. Then, of course, the idea that my beloved ones, like my late husband, my parents, who were always very supportive, my other relatives, friends, that they wouldn't want to see me collapse. No? So that keeps me strong as well. And then therapy, sure. I am not ashamed to say that after the loss of my husband, it was too much, and I did have to undergo some mourning therapy. And like everything in life, it has its limitations, it has its pros and cons, but on the whole, it has been quite support, a help. And then perhaps this belief, which you might define as an Oriental belief, perhaps this belief that life is both things, the good and the bad, and that you must somehow resign to this principle. You cannot rebel. No? Obviously, I have moments of uh, anger, strong emotions. I feel like a victim. I feel life isn't fair. But then I think, well, that by experience that there is always good and bad. After a misfortune, there is a happy event as well. That there are always downsides and advantages to things. Like, for example, as I said before, being visually impaired or blind has many downsides, obviously, but it also has the advantage that you can develop your other senses more, and the world becomes quite tangible.
So it's interesting. You mentioned the concept of yin and yang, the dark side
Yes.
and the light side. But I
Mm-hmm.
also think a lot of it, to me, sounds like it comes from within you. You can choose to see the glass as, as they say in English, half full or half
Mm-hmm.
empty. And you choose to see it half full. And one last thing, of course, there's no reason to be ashamed of having therapy. Many people go to therapy for many reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the challenges you faced are probably harder than most people, to lose your sight and then lose your husband. It was a great loss. I cannot even imagine it. I can't even imagine it. But what inspires me is how you continue to smile, how positive you are, how much you love life, how much you still are curious to learn more. You know, you're an inspiration to me, Patricia.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you. Well, as I say, I try to think about all the experiences I would like to have. And for example, I would love to ride on a camel or on an elephant. I am curious, as I told you, no? And I would like to notice, the swinging of the animal under me. I also love dancing, and although I have never been a good dancer, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. I like dancing, and I am very grateful to belly dancing. I find it a very therapeutical dance. I have done it for over 14 years. As I say, I'm not good at it at all, but I have always enjoyed it. But music in general, not only dancing, but listening to music, has conveyed to me. And the other things I would love to do, perhaps parachuting, why not? There is a blind friend of mine who has done it, and was quite over the moon about it. So why not try it out? You just have to think how to do it without vision. But luckily nowadays, society is somehow more willing or more prepared to provide the disabled with certain services or certain possibilities. And it can go on, and it should go on like that, really. Technology is also a tremendous advantage for us, the blind, because without all the adapted iPhones and all that, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation. I couldn't have possibly connected with you.
Well, technology is great, but what I find even greater is you know all the things you listed. You wanted to ride on a camel, ride an elephant, things I've never done, but it's amazing that you think about them. And parachute out of a plane, I've
Yes.
never done it. Neither am I brave enough to do it. And again, you're so inspiring. And I really hope you get to do all those things, Patricia. I really do.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you. Well, I'm sure you will find out something to do because look at all the events you are organizing.
Yeah, well, still, I think jumping out of a plane is very brave, and I don't think I would do it. So that I admire your bravery, Patricia. I admire.
Well, some strong emotion from time to time, not on a daily basis, but every now and then. Keeps your mind busy because having different activities, of course, is very helpful, at least for me, because I tend to be quite hyperactive. Again, an advantage is an advantage. It's an advantage because you all constantly look for new things and that keeps you going. Obviously, it's also a disadvantage because sometimes there are things that you have to accept you cannot do and you have to be more passive. No? Mm-hmm. So, well...
But I noticed you accept everything, and you make the best out of everything. What you can do, you do, and what you can't do, you accept. And that that's great that you handle it all well. Mm-hmm. So you talked about music, Patricia.
Yes.
Do you have a song that you especially? Do you have a song that you especially like or inspires you in any special way?
Yes, there are many, of course, so it's a difficult choice, but perhaps now I would choose one piece called Aranjuez, which was composed in the 1940s by a Spanish musician called Joaquin Rodrigo, and he was blind himself, also not by birth, but as an infant. He lost his sight due to an infant illness. And he composed this piece, which sounds quite melancholic, when he lost his first child. So again, it's a man, a figure, who also went through difficult periods, but managed to be a famous musician worldwide and achieved many things in life. And in his music, he communicates, at least to me, what life is like. This combination of sadness, but at the same time, beauty, hope, because in his music he also tries to reflect the singing of birds, the fountains flowing. Perhaps in the first movement, which is the most famous, you don't notice it so much, but in the whole composition you do. But anyway, Aranjuez is a piece that inspires me because of the composer and because of the town itself, because Aranjuez, as you probably know, is a small town near Madrid, towards the south of Madrid, about 45 minutes ride. It's a lovely place with lovely gardens. I have no percentage from the town hall of Aranjuez. It's just that I have spent some nice times, nice moments there. I have some good friends over there. So all that put together makes it one of my favorite songs or melodies, among many others, of course.
Okay, so let's hear a little bit of it. I think I have a little bit of this song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So beautiful, so beautiful. Really, it is very beautiful.
Thank you. I'm glad that you like it. And by the way, I didn't mention that in this particular one, there is Jose Carrera singing, who, as you probably know, was very ill himself of leukemia in the 90s. And he managed to overcome that illness. And he has done a lot for the research, therapies, and medicines against that illness. And thanks to his foundation, many people have been saved.
Well, all I can say is it's been really, really fun talking to you, Patricia.
My pleasure, Nadia, my pleasure.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for having taken the time to speak to me. It really was. Yes.
As I say, it was a pleasure, and well, my only tip: take advantage of all your senses. All your senses, they are important. Be sensual.
I love that. Be sensual. So please follow Patricia's advice. Be sensual. And with that, I'll bid you goodbye, Patricia.
Goodbye, Nadia. Goodbye, everybody.